The ocean around the Japanese island of Miyakejima is home to some of the most incredible deep-sea volcanoes on the planet. And these mysterious underwater volcanoes have recently given scientists reason to take a second look at how animals cope with living near the edge of destruction. Because even though it may not seem like the perfect habitat for wildlife, scientists have discovered that the unique environment of volcanic vents actually supports thriving ecosystems of fish, crustaceans, and bacteria. And while there are many benefits to living in an area full of superheated water spewing from the earth, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. A volcanic eruption can be pretty dangerous for animals. But as we've seen with other species that live in similar environments, animals that hang around volcanoes have evolved to thrive in conditions that would kill most other animals. So what exactly do they get out of living next to a volcano? What are the risks, and what can we learn from them? In order to answer those questions, let's first take a closer look at the ecosystem itself. Black smokers, which are deep-sea volcanic vents, emit superheated water that reaches temperatures of up to 400 degrees Celsius. To put that into perspective, that's about the same temperature as a hot tub. These waters contain chemicals such as sulfur, hydrogen sulfide, and methane. And instead of being warm and inviting, this toxic cocktail of compounds is poisonous to most marine organisms. On top of the toxic chemicals, because black smoker vents are located deep under the ocean, they don't receive any sunlight, making photosynthesis impossible. So if no plants can live here, then obviously no animals that eat plants can either. But even animals that don't need sunlight or plants to survive are usually filtered out by the intense heat coming from the vents themselves. Only creatures that are specially adapted to such extreme conditions are able to make their homes here. One of the most obvious examples is the vent crab. This little crab is one of only 2 decapod crustaceans known to live near hydrothermal vents. These crustaceans include crabs, lobsters, and shrimp, and normally they're found in shallow waters all over the world. But the vent crab has developed special adaptations to survive in one of the harshest environments on the planet. Vent crabs have been studied extensively since the 1980s, and scientists know quite a lot about them. For example, we know that they grow between 6 and 8 millimeters across, and that they're scavengers. They also have a symbiotic relationship with bacteria that live on their bodies. Bacteria grow in specialized structures called trophosomes, which are located on the gills of the crabs. The crabs provide the bacteria with carbon dioxide from their own bodies, as well as hydrogen sulfide that they pick up from the vents. In exchange, the bacteria convert the hydrogen sulfide into a form that the crabs can use as food. This relationship means that vent crabs don't need to hunt for food and can simply rely on passively absorbing the energy they need to survive. Now, since they don't move much, vent crabs also don't expend much energy. In fact, they grow so slowly that they're still considered juveniles when they're almost 10 years old. They reach sexual maturity when they're about 16 years old and can live for up to 20 years. While it might sound hard to believe, all of these adaptations are beneficial for the crabs. If they didn't conserve energy, they wouldn't have enough energy to survive in such harsh conditions. Their reliance on bacteria for food means that they don't need to venture far from their vents to find sustenance, and they're protected from predators by the superheated waters surrounding their vents. While vent crabs were some of the first animals found living near black smokers, they aren't the only ones. There are at least 175 different species of deep sea fish that live near volcanic vents, and scientists estimate that there could be more than 300. One of the most well-studied of these fish is the scaly fin seahorse. This tiny fish grows up to just 2 centimeters long and, like the vent crab, has its own symbiotic bacteria. The bacteria live in the fish's gills, where they convert chemicals emitted from the vents into a form the fish can use. Unlike the vent crab, though, the scaly fin seahorse needs to leave its vent home in order to hunt. This fish feeds on plankton and other small floating organisms, but it only ventures a few meters away from its home before returning. It seems to be able to sense danger from afar. Even if it doesn't see or feel the impending danger, The fish is probably picking up on chemical cues in the water that alert it to danger. But even with this ability to sense danger, life for these animals isn't always easy. Black smoker eruptions can reach thousands of degrees Celsius and can send huge amounts of hot water shooting up through the ocean floor. When these events occur, many of the bacteria living on the crabs and fish are killed, leaving the crabs and fish without food. Fortunately, new bacteria quickly colonize the crabs and fish, and they're able to survive until the next eruption occurs. But it does mean that they need to be constantly eating and growing in order to replace the bacteria that's regularly lost. In fact, vent crabs and seahorses spend most of their time eating. They have continuously open mouths to collect as much food as possible. And because of this, they don't have the ability to regulate their buoyancy, so they have to work constantly to keep from sinking to the bottom. To accomplish this, the vent crab uses its abdomen as a rudder to steer itself through the water, and the seahorse uses its fins for steering and its air bladder to adjust its overall buoyancy. So why do animals like the scaly fin seahorse and the vent crab put themselves in such great danger? Well, black smokers may be extremely harsh environments, but they're also rich sources of energy. And for animals that can adapt to the harsh conditions, there aren't many predators to worry about and plenty of food to go around. That's why the areas around black smokers often teem with life. In fact, they're often referred to as oases in the desert because they support life in what would otherwise be an inhospitable environment. For example, vents are usually found on the seamounts, which are isolated mountain peaks that rise from the ocean floor. These seamounts don't have the complex network of currents that help transport nutrients in deeper parts of the ocean. As a result, the ocean water around seamounts is usually poor in oxygen and filled with fewer nutrients than other parts of the ocean. However, the chemicals released from vents are full of energy that organisms can use. These chemicals essentially fertilize the water around vents, which makes it possible for primary producers like phytoplankton to photosynthesize. This phytoplankton then provides food for zooplankton, which in turn provides food for larger animals like fish. Unfortunately, not all animals that try to take advantage of the abundant resources near volcanic vents survive. Animals that live close to shore tend to be less tolerant of changes in their environment, which means they're at greater risk of dying during volcanic eruptions. A study published in 2021 examined the impacts of a volcanic eruption on the surrounding ecosystem. The eruption took place in 2015 and affected an area of about 18 square kilometers. Before the eruption, the researchers found 105 animal species in the area, including 40 fish species. After the eruption, only 72 animal species remained, along with only 28 fish species. The disruption caused by the eruption forced many animals to abandon their homes and seek new habitats. But even though some creatures couldn't handle the change, others seemed to benefit from it. The new vent activity created new cracks in the sea floor that provided shelter for smaller animals. And since the eruption occurred in an area that was already rich in nutrients, the explosion enriched the area even further. As a result, more animals were drawn to the area after the eruption than had died off. And while the short-term effects of volcanic eruptions can be devastating, the long-term effects on deep-sea ecosystems might be even worse. Eruptions often release sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. Sulfur dioxide can stay in the atmosphere for months or even years and can travel halfway around the globe. Once in the atmosphere, sulfur dioxide reacts with water, oxygen, and other substances to form sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid then falls to the ground in the form of acid rain, snow, or fog. And this acid rain can harm or even kill aquatic organisms. For example, a large volcanic eruption in 1986 in the Caribbean killed many corals and other marine organisms, and an eruption in 1991 in the Philippines killed hundreds of thousands of fish. But even though volcanic eruptions can negatively affect the surrounding ocean, they're also responsible for creating the conditions necessary for life to flourish in the first place. Without the constant input of new materials from vents, life as we know it might not exist. Nutrients from vents are thought to have been responsible for the formation of Earth's first organic molecules. and similar processes might have played a role in kick-starting life on other planets. From providing energy to shaping our entire planet, volcanoes play an important role in our world. And studying the animals that live near them can teach us even more about how life on Earth works. If you liked learning about all the amazing animals that live near volcanoes, then check out this playlist for more awesome ocean animals. And as always, thank you for watching.